CX-40, XC50, CX-40, XC50. I've got to say this like 5 times fast, or I'm going to mess it up for the rest of the entire voiceover of this comparison video.
Why don't we just call it the Volvo and the Mazda?
Yeah, I feel like that's too easy for me, but it is a good idea. We're actually doing this because of a viewer comment the other day. Someone was asking, should you buy the Volvo XC40 V5 or the Mazda CX-50? And after thinking about that, I actually couldn't really come up with a solid answer. So let's see if there's anything in the data that'll push you in one direction or the other if you're having a similar dilemma.
So full pricing is up on your screen, but in a nutshell, the Canadian starting price of a Mazda CX-50 is a good few $1,000s less than the starting price of an XC40. Although the CX-50 GT Turbo and Volvo XC40's entry-level core trim grade are priced basically identically, and there's some overlap on pricing between trim grades around $46,000 to $50,000.
So if you've got a budget of around $50,000 or so, totally feasible for you to be shopping out both of these machines. But let's see how they stack up according to the data.
So for height, the XC40 is in the lead by 1.8 inches, that's 4.6 centimeters, or about 3%. On length, the Mazda CX-50 takes the lead with an 11-inch advantage, that's 28 centimeters if you like, making it roughly 6% longer than the Volvo. For wheelbase, it's the Mazda CX-50 in the lead by 4.4 inches, that's 11.1 centimeters or 4%. And when it comes to body width, the Mazda has a slight lead of 0.4 of an inch, that's 1 centimeter or 0.5%. And for ground clearance, it's a virtual tie, though the Mazda CX-50 is technically in the lead by 0.2 of an inch, or 0.5 centimeter in this measurement.
So that's the exterior sized up. Now let's see how the CX-50 and XC40 compare when it comes to space, room, and cargo volume on board.
So comparing front headroom on models with the sunroof, we've got the Mazda CX-50 in the lead by 1.5 inches or 3.8 centimeters, meaning with the Mazda you'll find just under a 4% advantage in terms of front seat headroom compared to the Volvo. For rear headroom, it's the Mazda CX-50 in the lead again by a smaller margin of 0.3 of an inch, that's 0.7 centimeters. And on front legroom, it's the CX-50 in the lead by 0.8 of an inch or 2.1 centimeters, that's just under a 2% advantage versus the Volvo. And for rear legroom, the CX-50 leaves the XC40 in the dust with 3.7 inches or 9.5 centimeters more rear seat legroom than the Volvo. That's an advantage for the Mazda of 9.3%. But on front shoulder room, the Volvo XC40 takes the lead by 0.8 of an inch, that's 2 centimeters, or an advantage of 1.4% versus the Mazda. And interestingly, when it comes to rear seat shoulder room, the Volvo XC40 leads the Mazda CX-50 by 2.7 inches, that's just about 7 centimeters, or an advantage of 5%. So your taller passengers will likely be happiest in the Mazda, and your wider passengers would likely be happiest in the Volvo. And for overall passenger volume, it's the Mazda CX-50 in the lead by just under 7%. When it comes to cargo volume with the seats folded, the Volvo XC40 takes a lead by 2.2%. But in terms of cargo volume with the rear seats flipped up, the Mazda CX-50 leads the Volvo by over 34%.
So that's the size and space data summed up. Now let's see how these machines make use of your gas dollars.
For the 2024 model year, your engine choices for the Mazda CX-50 are a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with 187 horsepower and 186 pounds of torque, and that's a 6-speed automatic and all-wheel drive on all models, including the turbocharged version of this engine with 227 horsepower and 310 pounds of torque. And that's on the same regular grade gas as the base engine.
For 2024 model year, there is no hybrid tech in the CX-50, though that is coming for model year 2025.
The XC40 B5 comes with a single engine option, that's a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine with mild hybrid boost. Saving fuel and improving performance, you get 247 horsepower and 258 pounds of torque. So right in the same ballpark as the Mazda CX-50 Turbo when it comes to performance. Both models get all-wheel drive and automatic transmission, 6 gears in the Mazda, 8 in the Volvo. Just a quick note that the Mazda makes the power figures I just gave you on regular grade gas. You can get more power and torque if you run pricey 93 octane, though most owners don't. The CX-50's turbo engine is calibrated to use whichever octane level drivers give it, but in the XC40 you'll need to run premium gas.
Alright, so here we go with the numbers.
In Canada, the XC40 is rated to use 9 liters of premium gas for every 100 kilometers it drives on average. That's 60 miles, by the way. In the US, that works out to a 26 mile per gallon combined fuel economy rating. In the CX-50 with the non-turbo engine, you'll use just about the same, 8.9 liters of regular grade gas to drive 100 kilometers or 60 miles. And that's 27 miles per gallon and basically a tie with the non-turbo engine in the Mazda, using about as much gas as the much more powerful hybrid turbo engine in the Volvo. But remember, the Volvo needs pricier premium fuel. So comparing turbo engine to turbo engine, it's 9.4 liters of gas to drive 100 kilometers or 60 miles. That's a 25 mile per gallon combined rating from the CX-50 turbo, regular grade gas here. And that means that Volvo's B5 hybrid turbo engine is slightly easier on fuel than the Mazda turbo engine, but requires that pricier premium gas. Full figures up on your screen.
So long story short here, the three engines in this comparison are quite similar in terms of fuel consumption rate. Just keep in mind that the Volvo needs the pricier premium gas, and here's what that means for your gas bill.
So we'll start with Canadian gas costs, and if we have a theoretical driver doing 20,000 kilometers per year and paying $1.60 Canadian for a liter of regular gas, then the Mazda CX-50 non-turbo's 8.9 liter per 100 kilometer combined fuel economy rating means an annual fuel cost of $2,848 Canadian, or just under $240 a month. With the Mazda CX-50 turbo, that same driver is now using 9.4 liters of gas to drive 100 kilometers instead, still regular grade. And that translates to an annual fuel cost of $3,008, or about $250 a month. Then comes the XC40 B5. We're using slightly less fuel than the Mazda CX-50 turbo, but that premium gas costs more, and so our same theoretical Canadian driver is now paying $3,420 per year on fuel. That's $285 a month. Now for American gas costs, with the Volvo XC40 B5 first, I've got a hypothetical driver doing 15,000 miles per year and paying $4 a gallon for premium. With the 26 mile per gallon combined rating in the Volvo, that's 2,307 American per year, or just under $200 a month. That same driver in a Mazda CX-50 turbo is paying $3.50 per gallon for regular and getting 25 miles per gallon combined, so that's a $2,100 per year fuel bill, or $175 a month. And in the Mazda CX-50 non-turbo, with gas at $3.50 American per gallon and 25 miles per gallon combined, expect an annual fuel bill of $1,944, or a little over $160 a month.
So by now you've got a good take on how these machines stack up by the numbers, but how do they stack up when it comes to how they drive?
And if you're a little on the fence between these two vehicles, this might just be the most important part of the video for you to watch. But let's start after dark, where we've got the Mazda's adaptive LED lighting system bending and steering that clean white light into corners. This is the headlight experience I've come to expect from modern Mazdas, and in my experience, for where and how I drive, it is a top-tier lighting system right up there with some of my favorites from much pricier models. And in the XC40, you've got much of the same. Powerful, clear, and vivid lighting that's well aimed and consistent, and with this much power and a natural white color, I think you'll find either lighting system to be a fairly major upgrade if you're coming here from something that's maybe 10 or 12 years old. And the lighting system in either vehicle should have no trouble keeping your eyes fresh, engaged, and alert for hours after dark. Well, that clean, pure white light helps reduce eye strain when looking for details far away, which helps mitigate eye fatigue in the process.
Okay, your turn. So XC40, CX-50.
CX-40, CX-50.
No. XC40.
XC40, CX-50.
That's right, yeah. Now 5 times.
CX-40, XC50. CX-40, CX-50.
No.
I did it. Ah!
So headlights aside, this is probably the part of the video that most explains why I had trouble picking between these two machines when first asked the question. I really like how both of them drive. They're both quick and engaging, they both have steering that feels just right for the situation. Notably, the Mazda a little sharper, I find, for long hours of cruising on winding highways, and actually a little more consistent and easygoing when it comes to the driver assist systems too. Performance feels very close between the two turbo engines. The Mazda has more torque once that turbo gets spooled, and it's a quieter engine with a more stealthy approach. Think big, thick power curve, but not much for revs or noise. Sort of a strong and quiet performance punch that's always in your back pocket, but never in your face. To me, the Volvo XC40 feels more responsive more of the time, and its acceleration is more humorous at low speeds, where the added electric torque from its hybrid motor starts to fling it off the line before the turbo even gets breathing. But I think you'll find the Mazda has the more athletic and sharper and precise brake pedal and steering feel of the pair, and you're likely to find it a surprisingly spirited and engaging machine to drive. In the Mazda, more of my smiles came from the handling and the brakes and the feel of the steering. In the Volvo, more of my smiles came from the performance and feel of that hybrid turbo engine specifically, thanks to that low RPM responsiveness. So when it comes to the fine-tuning of the feel of these machines, I think the CX-50 is trying harder, and is also more effective at reminding you of a sports car. Now, both machines are a solid choice for a spirited driver, though I think if you've got a lot of winding roads in your locale, you'll especially like the feel of the Mazda. It's also worth noting that neither machine has my favorite infotainment system. The Volvo's updated screen works better than its predecessor, but some controls are still a bit fiddly, and that screen is a smudge and dust magnet. The Mazda wants you to use the central controller, which you'll get used to, but it still always leaves me wishing for a more straightforward touchscreen interface positioned closer to me. So end of the day, I think for this money, you've got better choices for top-tier infotainment systems elsewhere. So which one would I buy? Well, probably the Mazda for a little bit of extra cargo room and a bit better use of my gas dollars, but to me, after thousands of kilometers of testing, I'd still say it's close enough to be a coin toss. And if you found that to be a useful recap of these two models, be sure to leave me a like if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe so you don't miss any new uploads, and let us know down in the comments section below which of these models you drive, which ones you're considering, and which other models you might be interested in seeing compared this way.
I'm Justin Pritchard from Sudbury, Ontario, and we'll see you in the next video.